Hi, I'm Jim.
And I'm David.
And this is the Practical Guitarist Podcast.
The podcast for people who eat, sleep, and breathe guitar. Hello, Jim.
Oh, David?
I've heard there's a lot of new stuff going on right now. Can I start?
Yeah, you got to start.
Because I got short ones, right?
Once I get going, this train is not stopping.
I know. That's why I'm thinking maybe I should do this first. So I got I got a pair of shoes. They showed up. This is a little bit of cultural humor for the time period, right? So I ordered a pair of shoes off Zappos. My first Zappos purchase ever, because I would never buy shoes online. As I said,
Okay.
we talked about the pig and the poke thing, like not being able to try something before you buy it. Well, shoes are one thing you probably should try before you buy them. So I ordered from Zappos, and then I waited like 7 days. So I ordered them before the last episode, and then they showed up, and guess what? They were the wrong friggin' shoes. So I get on their customer service, and their advertising on the box is great service, right? I get on their customer service, and I tell them, you sent me the wrong shoe. And it's very clear they do not realize they sent me the wrong shoe. And we go through this whole conversation. I'm like, when are you going to give me my shoes? Like, when am I going to get the right ones? When do I got to ship these back? And how am I shipping them back and all this stuff? And the dumb part about it was they were refusing to like overnight them to me. And I'm like, you guys messed up. Like, what is going on here? I'm not paying the shipping charges, and I don't think I should have to wait another 6 days. Like, you guys are crazy. So anyway, long story short, I got my shoes on Sunday, the replacements. So I've been wearing them today. It's great.
Oh,
but
okay.
the actual
today is Sunday. Today is Sunday.
Yes, I think I got them this morning. I think I got them yesterday. Actually, I got them yesterday afternoon. Okay. I didn't put them on until this morning. I was afraid to open the box until this morning. I was like, if I open this box and it's the wrong shoe, I'm going to lose my mind. So I'm going through this as quickly as possible because it's not guitar talk, right? Now I got my unicorn. I think it was Friday. My JHS unicorn, and
that unicorn. I thought you were talking about a different unicorn.
Oh, okay. No, I think I actually got it earlier than that. I got it sometime this week, and like I sat on it for 2 days because I just did not have time to rip my board apart. Well, yeah, so I put it on my board. I tried it with the direct out and the ethos, and it was okay, and because I'm a Univibe connoisseur, so my first impression of it was like, I can use it. It's not like the viscous vibe where I had like intense problems from day one, but it was like, it's passable. And so I played it with the ethos for a couple hours, just direct into my interface, and then yesterday I put it through I think it was yesterday. Whatever. It's all running together because I've been editing the episode and everything else. The last week's episode. I put it through the Mesa this evening, and that kind of changed my opinion. At first, I wasn't thrilled. I like had to tweak the settings a little bit, and then I got it, and I was like, okay, this is kind of where I want it to be. It's a really good Univibe, and in my impression, it's like more subtle than most of your Univibes are, where they're like really in your face. This Univibe is kind of like back in the mix a little bit. And that's kind of cool because it allows your real guitar tone to shine through, and you can tweak the depth to get what you want out of it. It doesn't overtake your tone. The one in the Kemper, I have to play with the mix knob on it because if you leave the mix knob at 100%, which is where you would typically leave a Univibe, it gets to the point where I've actually had people come up to me and be like, "Are you using a wah?" No, it's a Univibe. So that it is what it is. It's a cool pedal. It worked out pretty good on my board so far. I have to say that the pictures I sent you, Jim, I'll probably flash them at the bottom of the show somewhere. With the rig setup, aside from the psycho cabling that was going on, because I was just patching. I felt like I was playing an analog or one of those modular synths. Just patch this here and here as fast as I could. And I'm literally pulling pedals off the board, moving them over so I could stick a cable in. I got it all going, and it sounded really, really good. And to the point where I'm like, why do I even have a Kemper? I mean, that was kind of the impression. In fact, I sent my local Mesa dealer is Good Time Music, and I sent them a picture of my rig, and I was like, congratulations, you win. Like what do you want me to do
Yeah,
here?
well, I don't think anybody in the world, in their right mind, no, in their right tonal mind, let's kind of talk about that, says, "Oh yeah, I got my new Helix or I got my new Kemper and now I'm gonna throw all my amps away." I
Well,
think that person is just saying, I have to support my habit and I'm selling stuff."
right.
That's what
This is a tool for the job, but I've been kind of going back and forth, and it's like, well, I use the camper. I get away with the camper. There's a lot of things in the camper I like. I could sell my camper and all the gear I've got for it, and I could go to like a Captor X and get a really nice second tube amp. And it's kind of like, it's tempting. It really is, but
yeah,
I'm not. I don't think I'm headed down that path. I don't.
I'd be tempted.
I really don't. And the only reason why I say that is because I feel like I've got the good tube amp that I can do a lot with. Like, I mean, I was getting plexi tones out of that thing tonight, and I was doing it
Right, right.
by using the King of Tone into the Extreme channel, and I had the Extreme channel gain at like 9 o'clock. I mean, it's like a crunch thing, um, but I really think that at some point, that'll probably be a viable option for me, but it's not yet. Maybe in a year or two, 3 years. It just depends on where I go musically. Like if I start playing with more like bar bands and stuff like that, then it probably makes more sense to keep the digital rig going. But if I start playing with by myself and getting some paid gigs here and there, like I probably will pony up and get the equipment that I want to sound like rather than to sound like that equipment, if that makes sense. Um,
Yep.
so anyway, Jim, you've got some lovely new items. I can see some of them.
Yeah, so
Um,
yeah, you can see one of them, and here's the other one.
is that thing a special
Uh,
color? Or is it just the way it's showing up on the video?
this
Yeah.
The line 6, yeah, that's a special color. So I got brushed gold for free for it was the
Yeah.
same price.
Right.
So it's a brushed gold. It says gold. It says limited edition gold. It even comes on the box, big limited edition thing. But the box still has a picture of a black one on it, so they didn't do a very good job there. But anyway, some things they didn't do a very good job with. But should I start with the Spark or should I start with the Helix? Which one should I start with?
Which one do you think has more comedy gold? The little impression you gave me of the Helix before the episode started, I actually intentionally wouldn't let Jim tell me too much because it already got bad. It was
Yeah,
like,
all
okay.
right, so we'll start with the Helix. So on Friday, was it Friday or Sat Friday?
You probably picked
Friday,
it
I
up
went
Friday.
to
I didn't hear about it till Saturday,
yeah,
but whatever.
Saturday morning. So I asked a few people, and I said, "This is what I'm doing." I said, "I know what David's gonna tell me, and I can always go back to that, but I need some other input." So I asked a few people, and they said, "For what you're doing, it sounds like you're more Helix than Kemper. Give the Helix a go." Okay. So and they said, "Are you stuck in the Helix if you get it?" I said, "No, I'm not even stuck with a stocking fee. I got 6 months to bring it back." So, long story short, I buy it, I bring it home. I know that I'm gonna have to connect it to the computer and upgrade the firmware. So I said, "Well, I may as well have my dinner first. Eat dinner, sit down to the Helix, hook it up.
Mm.
All right, blue screen of death.
On the Helix?
First thing, boom. No, on the
On
computer."
your PC? Yeah.
I'm like, "What?" Disconnect it, reboot the computer, works fine. Uh, hook up the. Now, of course, I've downloaded and installed the drivers. By the way, I forgot to say that part.
Yeah.
Nowhere in any of the documentation does it say about known issues. One known issue, which is all over freaking the internet. Once I googled it, I'm like, "What did I do wrong?" I'm installing the drivers. I'm reinstalling the drivers. It's going to blue screen of death.
Haven't we already talked about their manuals and their lack thereof?
I'm going to registry edit. I'm freaking pulling everything that says line 6 out of it. Registry. Line 6, line 6, line 6. I don't even care about history in my documentation file. Pull it out. Throw it away. I go, I bring up blue screen of death. Anyway, I Google it. Simple thing. This camera, I'm pointing to you, Mr. Camera. Logitech has a thing called G Hub. And if G
Yeah,
Hub is running,
I know about G Hub.
G Hub, yep. If G Hub is running and you connect the Kemper, or I mean the Helix, known issue, all over the internet, crashes, blue screen of death.
What are the odds? What are
Yeah.
the odds?
What are the odds that someone has a Logitech camera? What are the odds that someone would have a Logitech camera? I don't know.
No, no,
Maybe
that's how I'm saying. Like, what are the odds that your video camera hardware would have anything to do with the
no.
Helix?
It's just that software, that new G Hub software. All right, so all I had to do was stop the G Hub software. The camera will work with it. I just can't run G Hub software, which is the controller software, for
Right,
changing the
right.
coloring and everything else. All right, so that's fixed. So then I go, okay, time to upgrade the firmware. Okay, and it says go to 2.9, then 2.92. I go to 2.9, I download 2.9. It says upgrading to 2.92, and I went no, and then it crashes right in the middle of firmware update. So I'm sorry, I took a shower and my hair is actually falling into my face. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, you mother, just like,
Eh.
get the.
All right, can I stop?
So wait,
Okay,
it gets better. So you can boot it up into a safe mode.
right.
You hold two buttons, boot it up into
I
safe
know.
mode, and get it back.
Ask me how I know.
Yeah, so I booted up into safe mode. The drivers now don't work. They don't talk to it. They see it as a keyboard, and they're like, your Helix keyboard doesn't work." What? And so I spent another 20 minutes with that. Finally, I fixed that. And that all I did was tell it to update. Oh, wait, the both times I have put in a ticket to line 6, both times. Because that part gets better. So um I put the line 6 thing in there. I connect it up. I get it to where now it'll look at it, but I cannot get the software to talk to this thing. I go get a Mac, it's doing the exact same thing.
Mm.
What is going on? I'm following the instructions by the letter. And then Chad Boston,
Yeah.
um, kind of a shout out to Chad Boston for the help. Although, Chad, you don't have to spend 7.5 minutes telling people you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do the other thing. Just spend the 30 seconds that you needed telling people what they should do. I got it up in, like I said, it was up in safe mode. You're not supposed to launch the Helix edit and then do the update. You have to do the updater, the Line 6 updater. But the instructions say to open the edit and then launch the update from the edit. So um, I open the edit or the updater that talks to this. Then I get it updated. So then I walked it through version by version, even though it says you can upgrade right to this version. I went, no, no, I'm not. I am going to update you to every single firmware along the way. And I did. I updated it from 2.3 to 2.31 to 2.32 to whatever was in between, I went to. And it finally worked. And it was like 3 o'clock in the freaking morning. And I'm like, I'm exhausted. I'm going to bed. Not one
Yeah, he hasn't
guitar lick
played one note.
played.
Did you even patch in a guitar at that point?
Nope. I didn't even test it. Next morning, take out the alto, connect it up so that I've got a monitor, right? Connect it directly to the alto. Go to the power up, connect everything together, plugged in my computer, the sound, actually the Focusrite, but it doesn't matter, directly into it. And I look and I'm like, you're kidding me. You mean to tell me they use 1/4 inch aux instead of 1/8 inch aux? Seriously? Who has a 1/4 inch aux anymore? So I had to go get a guitar cable, a stereo 1/4 inch cable to connect the two together, just so I could test to make sure, because I didn't know if the left channel or right channel was going to
Well,
come through each.
in pro audio, like that is the way you do that. Even your headphone connections, like when you buy a pro audio set of headphones,
Yeah,
they
yeah, I
have
know.
the bigger plug. So
But they didn't have any 1/8 inch. They didn't give you, like, a lot of them will give you the
yeah,
adapter. Even my
usually get it with the headphones. That's
yeah.
yeah.
So I find a 1/4 inch stereo connector, which I had. I hook it up, fire it up. Okay, making sound. Okay. Um, so then I pull that out. I'm like, okay, hook up the guitar. Okay, makes a sound. I go to start using the built-in patches, and as you know, built-in patches
They're
suck
abysmal.
bad. They are horrible.
They're
They
embarrassingly bad. It's almost like they never expected anybody was actually going to look at them.
line 6 here message to line 6, and I'm sure that I'm not the first person on YouTube or a podcast to say this. Your patches suck. Suck. They're horrible. Even the clean patches are terrible. Um, so it's almost like they put them together in like with a bunch of 10-year-olds listening to them. What do you think? Oh, they're good. Can we have bomb pops now? I mean, it's like I don't know what's going on.
I think it was just to like, it's like keyboard syndrome, right? So when you go, if you ever
Yeah,
been keyboard shopping before, if you ever looked at synthesizers, like
yeah,
the ones that have all the shiny, bright, blinking lights are usually the ones that sell, and they're usually also the least powerful.
yep.
So
So I'm then I go to build a patch. So I go to the user selection. You know that there's 8 groups of set lists. So I go, all right, I'm just going to build a set list of my own. So I go into the first patch. I build a patch, and I get done building the patch, and I see it on the Helix. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm messing around with it a little bit. So I say, okay, I'm going to build the next one. So I go to the next one, and the first one disappears. It's gone. And I was like, it just happened.
so did
So
you
I have
click
to,
did you click save before you moved on to the next? Okay.
and I push the next. I go back. I rebuild that from scratch. I rebuilt that so many times that I had it memorized. I had all the settings memorized. Finally, I hit save on the device instead of in the software because I'm using HX Edit. 'Cause I want to use the computer. That's the whole
Is it
reason
saving it on the computer directly? Because I know you can do that.
I did. And you know what it did? It saved the empty bank. I don't know how.
Oh,
And it
interesting.
I yeah. And so it had the right name.
Yeah, see,
I named
I never messed with the set lists. I always just made like patches, and then if I was going to build a set list, I would have then copied them
I
into the set
saved it
list.
patch by patch. That's what I was trying to
Yeah,
do was save it patch by patch. After I created that patch 16 times, I saved it on the freaking Helix. I was like, all right, this. I hit save on the Helix,
and that
you know,
worked.
and it worked. It saved. I have one patch.
How many hours?
So we're talking about a 3-hour process here to get one patch in there to work.
Now,
Um,
now, how long did it take you to dial in originally, though?
oh, geez. To dial in a patch took me forever. I mean, probably of that 3 hours is probably about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours to dial that patch in to get it where I wanted it.
So, like, let me get your impression because I've had one, right? So I kind of
Yeah,
know the lay of the land. The amplifier section. So, like, when you
I was
select an
using a
amp,
Brit normal. Yeah,
yeah. But when you go in there
345.
and you're playing around with those settings, how many parameters does that actual amp have? Like 8, right? The real amp. Like volume, bass, middle, treble, presence.
Right.
How many controls are in the Helix?
Yeah,
Like
like 16.
16?
Yeah, ridiculous number.
And how many of them actually do something?
None. Okay, and then I want to get to the next
All
part
right, all right.
because I'm not done. I'm not done because it's so much fun. Now I'll explain why I'm going through all this because I've told you. I'll wait till the end here to tell everybody else. But so then I hit the mode button because I want to be able to see all my things laid out. You know, all my um, pedals laid out onto the buttons.
Oh yeah.
No, I have to assign them all.
Yeah, you have
I
to
was like,
assign them.
you know what? I quit for now. I have done too much. This is way too much work. I'm done.
Oh,
I
the
quit
assigning is
for the
easy.
moment. Oh, I know. But I was like, you know what? I just spent 3.5
Yeah.
hours or whatever messing around with this freaking thing. the wah pedal and volume pedal are the same. You got to do a thing.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I'm just done messing with it. I'm gonna mess with it later. And I never went back to it.
Well, so for your reference, when you do go to assign the foot switches, if you touch
Yeah.
them, they're capacitive. So
Yep.
all you have to do is have the effect highlighted, and then touch the foot
Yeah.
switch, and then it comes up a little menu, and then you can click assign. So you don't. It's
Yeah.
not like super complicated, but I get it. Like you spent 3.5 hours doing what I did the first time that I started messing around with the Helix, which was dialing in something that was not really all that usable, probably, and
Yep.
then just like, okay. I mean, sound quality aside, because like at this point, we're not really even talking about what
And
it
we're not.
sounds
Yeah,
like.
we're not there yet.
We're not, because you haven't really had that much experience with that.
No.
But the user
No.
interface, people talk about how great the user interface is on these products, and I just laugh because I'm like, the Helix is like so far from being a good user interface from my perspective. And even the Head Rush, who is they says the king of the user interface, it's
Oh yeah.
crap. It's not any better. It really isn't. I sat in the store and played with the Head Rush for 2 hours, and I was like just now scratching the surface. Even though it's a touchscreen, of like, okay, so this is how I do this and this is how I do that. So I really do understand where you're coming from.
And it's
Um,
so easy, especially in the GUI. It is so easy to unassign something you just spent an hour, like the King of Tone, right? I dropped a King of Tone in
yeah,
there, or was it the Sovereign?
sovereign whatever, because
Right.
because they can't make names that are like really indicative of what you're doing, not
Right.
like the brand name, but you could call it a Brit 800, and then I know it's a JSIM 800, right? Or
Right.
no, we
Yeah.
got
I
to
got to.
make it the sovereign
Yeah.
drive or
So anyway, you spend all this time messing with the Sovereign drive. This happened to me. This was part of the three and a, that I get the Sovereign drive just the way I want it. I say, okay, now I want to mess with the other one. And it is so easy because then I click off of it. I click to the other pedal. I adjust that. Click back to the Sovereign drive. But you get to clicking back and forth because you're trying to, level those things out. And because they're not physical, if instead of clicking the button for the
yeah.
physical, location, and you
Hmm.
use the GUI. Instead of clicking that, you click, like, TS-808 because you have a TS-808.
Your
It
settings are
doesn't go,
gone.
"You just gave yourself a new TS-808 and all the settings you had. Are
Yep.
you sure you wanna
And you
this up and you don't have an unf button?"
there's no undo. There's no redo. The Kemper has that. Okay, which is really cool.
Oh, they did put an undo and redo
On the
on the
application,
GUI. Yes, but
not on the device.
not in the device. If you do it, you're dead.
Right. And so that's the other thing I want to point out was you can't set defaults for the things that you use a lot. So like you can't have a
That's the other
preset
side of it.
like a preset
Right,
that's like an 808 callback setting.
right,
Which boggles my mind
right.
because
Because
once you get it
you're
dialed for the guitar you're using, it's like, okay, I just kind of want to just pull up these settings
right. Why would I
every
want your
single time.
generic 808 every single time? I want the one I just built.
Right, right. And with as many parameters as is in the Helix, I mean, it gets bonkers fast. You can. So what I did, Jim, just to give you a heads up, I created in one of the user profile. There's pages of presets, like user
Yep,
5. I put a patch in there that had my favorite stomp box settings, and then I would
yep.
copy paste. But
Yeah, yeah,
you have to copy paste using. So like I would create that new patch and then
yep.
modify the crap out of it
Right.
because you can't copy from inside that patch to another patch. It's so convoluted. Um,
You can't you should be able to just drag pedals around willy-nilly. They should have like a pedal drawer. Like if you're gonna build an interface, this is me talking to the GUI people. If you're gonna build an interface, build it like you use it. Workflow is workflow, right? How do you pick a pedal that goes onto your board? You go into your closet or whatever, wherever you have your pedals, and you pick the pedals you're going to put on it. Then when you put the pedal down, what do? You assign settings to the pedal, right? We tweak them in. And we say we might even take the pedal and you've seen this on pro boards before, where it'll say like LP for Les Paul, SG,
Yeah, for the settings,
Strat,
right?
Telly, right? I mean, is that so hard? Is that really so hard that I can't say, okay, you know what? I want the 808 with the settings that I use because I should be able to put 100 TO8s, TS808s in my software, in the GUI software, as much room as my computer will hold.
Yeah, and that's
You
another
can
thing.
address that.
That's another thing. So the Helix doesn't have like pretty much any hard drive space. Um, it can hold 127 impulse responses at like what, like max 5 megs each. And it can hold. I mean, thumb drives have more storage space than the Helix does.
I was just going to say there is a magical thing called a thumb drive, or the other magical thing that most of these pedal systems that need stuff have. Even my freaking Jam Man has, and that's a slot for a
For an
card.
SD card, right? So you can back it up.
So I could have a card the size of my guitar pick, and I could back it up. But instead, you give me a cool little freaking flash drive
With
with
manuals.
your manual on it that's already out of date when I get it.
Way out of date. And they don't update their manuals very frequently either. So this is so let me give my side of what's been going on with Jim. So I get this message, I get this cryptic message, and it was I interpreted it, and I know this is not what you're doing, but I interpreted it initially as like an apology. Well, I know you gave me advice, but I decided to do the other thing.
No, it was kind
And
of
then
like that. It was,
and
I know I went against your
and I
advice.
and I laughed because I don't care. You do what you want. But anyway, I was like, well, let's see where this goes. And then he didn't really say much to me, and then I texted him and I was like, let me know when you stop cursing. Cause I figured he was already
It
like
hasn't stopped yet.
he already had like a moment, And later on he sent a message back and he said it hasn't stopped yet. And he said, I'm at a birthday party, we'll talk later. And I was just I just had this moment where I was like, wow, Jim is like going right down the rabbit hole that I went down. And like
God.
is you know the thing with me was like, I spent the money already. So I'm like, I already had it by the time that I was like, you know what, this is a pain in the ass. And
Yep.
so I sat on it for like 2 years or a year or whatever I had mine. And I
Yeah,
was,
you had at least a year, if not
yeah,
two.
I was just, and the whole time I was like back and forth with it. It was convenient, but it was like convenient and also a time suck. And unfortunately, as guitar players, like we don't think about this because it's something we love to do. But the more time you spend dicking around with your gear, and I'm going to say that in jest, the more time you mess around with your gear, like the less time you're going to actually have to play
Get to
your
play.
gear. And if
And
you
that's the
actually like
problem.
to play your gear, maybe the Helix isn't for you. The other thing is,
I,
um, as part of this conversation, Jim, the back and forth between you and I, and the Helix thing, like I sort of thought like because you'd had the Pod HD 500 and we were looking at the user interface. We did a remote session and we were both looking at the user interface together. And I thought to myself when I was looking at it, I was like, wow, HX said it really isn't that different than this.
nope.
And then he tells me he's buying a Helix, and I'm like, uh-oh. This is no good. So I'm not surprised
Well,
to hear any of this, but I'm also surprised that it's as extreme as it is.
we're supposed to get some Helixes in stock next week.
You mean Kempers?
So, I'm sorry, Kempers. Yeah, supposed to get some Kempers in stock at Guitar Center at the warehouse.
Right.
So if there are some, and I'm not satisfied by next week,
You're gonna be taking a long, hard look at it.
I'm gonna
Uh,
ditch it, and I'm gonna
honestly,
I'm gonna
Jim,
return it.
for you, it may make more sense for you to get the Captor X and just use your amps and go direct.
Well, okay, so here's the problem. So we're not supposed to have amps on stage.
So get
It's
ahead and just stick it on the
the
floor behind you or
Well,
whatever.
that's it. So the band I'm in supposed to have no amps on stage. So I thought about that. I thought about just buying a Bantam
Yeah.
and going that.
Or even I wouldn't buy a Bantam, but uh I I watched several videos on that amp because Robert Jackson posted his, and I honestly thought like, wow, it sounds okay for 150 bucks. But I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know that I would necessarily
Well, all
but
right. So I want to put my position in perspective because this is me in the band. So the other guitar player is using a Tone Lab SE from
Right,
2002.
which a lot of people think that those are pretty good even now.
No,
I
yeah, I'm just
personally, I'm
I'm
not on that side, but I get it.
but I'm just saying that so he's putting pedals, real pedals, into a Tone Lab SE, which is his whole rig. He does not have an IR on the other end. His amp and
Well,
cabs
yeah, no. So the Tone Lab has cabinet simulation in
has a
it.
built-in cab sim. Yeah. And
Now,
so he's because when you flip it to PA, there was used to be an old switch, you'd flip it to PA mode. So he's got it PA mode, and so it's emulating a 2x12 or a 4x12 or whatever it's emulating.
is it the two? Is it the tube input one?
Yeah, that's the one
Okay,
that's got the
that's why
yeah.
he's running pedals into it, because if you so that was part of the allure of those for a lot of people, was that, oh, I can
Right.
run pedals into it because the
I had
input
one.
stage is going to clip nicely instead of clipping like
I had
crap.
one. I bought it back when it was $600,
Yeah, yeah.
650.
They go for about $200 used, which is pretty impressive given that they're, an out of
Given
date
that they're
like half digital piece.
yeah, close to 20 years old.
Um, now,
Now,
per
I'm just the only reason I say that is because in all honesty, and he's not listening, so it's okay. His tone is terrible.
you could have
So
you could have saved a buttload of money though and just gotten a fly rig
I thought about that.
and just put some modulation in front of it. You'd be golden. Um, honestly, if you have to go direct, you had the perfect direct rig at one point. You had the
Yeah,
Amp One.
the blue rig. Yeah,
Yeah. And I kind of wonder if you should just look to get one used.
thought about it.
And
That's the other thing I thought about.
I mean, that's
Is just buying a blue.
because at least with the Amp One, it's just set it and forget it. Like, twist some knobs, done. It's not like that. I see the value in it. Playing around with the Kemper versus like me getting to spend 2 hours with the Mark tonight. I set my Mark up. I kind of tweak things a little bit as I go, but mostly it's set it and forget it. I'm not playing around with settings everywhere. Even the pedals on the floor, I'm tweaking them with my foot because I'm like, I don't really need to bend over or even adjust anything because it's basically the way I want it. Whereas if I'm running the Kemper, I mean, I'm saving stuff, copy and paste, and moving things around, changing the delay, tap tempo, this crazy crap. And I'm like, wait a minute, where's the guitar playing here?
The truth of the matter is that, and this is the good and the bad. So the truth of the matter is, what I want to be able to do is just go, okay, I'm going through a set list. I'm going to go through some songs, right? And I want to just go take a song, and then the snapshots within that song are going to be that thing. So whatever this, the solo, the chorus, the verses, and whatever, and those will be how I do it. Just like I actually didn't mind that with the HD 500. The problem with this is not the amp. Remember, with the HD 500, I had the blue. The problem with this is you have to be more careful about the output volume. You know that, right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, you've got
Remember
to
how I
think,
bitched
okay,
about it not having metering?
yeah,
Do you know how I would meter it? I'd run it into my DAW and I'd pull up a VU meter and I would look at the LUFS volume rating and I would
yeah,
play for 2 or 3 minutes and play some song, the song I was going to play, and then I would sort of know and it would be balanced.
yeah.
And even their default settings are all over the place in terms of volume, which is hilarious to me. It's like
The
you guys
master
couldn't even
volumes should all be exactly the same.
yeah,
Exactly the same. If I want a global master volume of 6, then that global master volume should be 6. And that volume knob should be my global master. That's that's it. It should
done.
never get
Done. You shouldn't have per patch volume. This whole idea that you want some patches to be 3 dB back and 6 dB, it's bullshit.
no. If I want that, I put it in a boost in the freaking patch.
Yep. After the amp. The
That
amp model itself should always be the same
because
volume.
what I did was I tried to go cheap because I didn't look for anybody that's got some Helix patches that I could just buy some and
You don't want to
so
do that anyway. I have heard
yeah, well,
people's experience with bought patches from Helix, and everybody and their mother thinks they can do it, and they're all bad.
Oh, they're all over the place.
Eh,
The patch levels were like this.
yeah.
One person got the same band, Journey, Don't Stop Believing, here. Journey, Don't Stop Believing, here. It's like, I don't know. I don't know.
How are you getting
And I
away?
didn't
How are you even getting away with that?
and it's like, and why is line 6, saying, "Okay, you know what? You got your volume set here." That is where the media, the
All they
modem.
needed was input output metering.
Yeah,
Fractal has it. Fractal has had it. Okay, this is not a new thing. They had it before the Helix came out,
yeah,
and the Kemper doesn't have monitoring or like volume levels like that. But when you do the profile, it sets it for a unity volume. So unless you've adjusted it, it should be
right,
basically the same.
right. And I know that that's a big difference. Um, what I really want to do, I mean, the truth of the matter is, I just want to find, like, I hate to admit it, but at least in the beginning, I just want to find two good amps, a clean amp and a dirty amp, and I could build a patch for dirty stuff and a patch for clean stuff, and I should be able to, um, you know, do those where the one patch does everything. I can add and subtract my pedals just like I would in real
A
life.
virtual rig.
Right.
Well,
A
I have a
virtual rig.
whole episode I think where I discussed the virtual rig problems with the Helix, but um
That's where I want to go with it. And if it can't get there, then I can't it's not usable to me.
the problem is so the amp switching virtual rig thing, like I had issues because you couldn't exclude certain pedals from the snapshot. So you could use snapshots to turn on 2 or 3 effects, like for given, it's like say verse, chorus, bridge thing,
Yep.
where you could have it programmed out and then you hit one and you stay. Everything has to stay on the same patch because there's a gap, like a 1 second delay between switching patches. So
Yep.
you have to build them this way. So if you're gonna have two amp sounds in one song, you're gonna switch with a snapshot, and it's gonna turn off one amp and then turn on the other one. Um, but
Now
the
I
but the problem is you can't exclude pedals from that and have them on or off independent of snapshots and stuff. Like there's some weird global stuff. They were supposed to add that at some point. I don't know whether they did or not.
yeah,
But
that's
that was
I haven't
that
tried
was
that
a
yet.
deal breaker for me because I finally just got to the point where I was like, you know what? If I can't just build a rig in here and use that all night long, this is not what I want to use.
And supposedly they fixed that.
Hmm.
I think they were at 2.8 when you left, or going to 2.82
They
when
were at
you left.
2.7 when I left.
Yeah, so they were going to 2.82 and it's 2.92 now.
Yep.
So they've moved to, and again, it might be there, but my biggest, and that's the thing that I knew going in, but I think that I wanted to stress to people, and I kind of want to dunk the ball here at the end here, is when you buy one of these things, don't expect to play guitar for a couple of days. And most of what you're going to do is, okay, does this sound good? Does this sound good? Does this sound good? For
Unless
a while,
unless you're
unless
really technical and you spend 8 hours at it.
right, right. And I couldn't. I am not that person that wants to sit there and mess with this stuff for hours at a time. I had a birthday party to go to
Well,
yesterday.
well, I think part of your issue is that you started out with the computer side of it, and
Yep.
I didn't. You know what I did? I sat, cross-legged on the floor and twiddled the Helix. And I think that's if you want to get up to speed, don't mess with like the software updates and all that stuff fast, unless you want to just make sure you have the firmware updated.
That's what I did.
So
Yeah. I haven't done anything else. But again, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So to finish things off, after I got done and I was so frustrated, this afternoon I'm looking at my email and I got an email from line 6 because I closed both my tickets because now I don't need their freaking help. I didn't need their help. They didn't give
oh,
me
they
any help.
finally reached out to you?
The thing reached out and said, your tickets are closed. How did we help? How did we do?
Not at all.
You didn't do a
I
thing.
didn't do that.
Why do you have an automated system? Your automated system even smart enough to know you didn't get involved in the tickets.
That was the other message I wanted to mention. So Jim and I had another message where he sent me back and he said, "What models are good in the Helix?" And I said, "Well, there's like 2 of them." I was just kind of joking, like half joking.
Yeah,
And then we kind of went back and forth. And I mentioned that the King of Tone was a really good drive in there. And so then I sent him helixhelp.com, which is an independent manual run by community people
right?
who use the
It
Helix
re-
because they don't have a pilot's guide that explains to you what each thing is modeling.
no, they have a pilot's guide for the GUI, and that's about it. The biggest thing that ticks me off is this. It's a good and a bad thing. The community is really what makes the Helix exist. I don't think if it wasn't for people who are steadfast, I hate to admit it, Chris Taggart, but he's in there. Chad Boston, Richie Castellano, um, Corey. If those guys weren't in uh, the group and actively using this thing in a professional level, I mean, Richie's using this thing with Blue Oyster Cult. I mean, so if you're out there and you're doing this stuff, and you're doing this stuff professionally, um, Corey uses it for Shania Twain and uses it for other people. Richie's using it for
But that's their
um,
job.
not
It's not like they
yeah,
have a day gig,
right,
you know?
right.
um,
And I'm sure they've got some people helping them tweak some stuff. I'm sure that Rich, what's his name, Rich from Line Six.
yeah, I think they get some assistance from Line 6 directly. They have a podcast and they've talked about sending people out to work with various uh,
Artists.
artists and to get them squared away.
And you
If
know
you
what really ticked me off? You know what else really ticked me off? So Pete Thorne, right after I put this thing and set it up and did all this work, Pete Thorne does a video with Line Six, and what does he show that pretty much and now you can load IRs to it. I can't believe it. The new HD Pro
Yeah,
Pod
the Pod
Pro.
Pro. You know
You
what?
could put IRs on
The
it.
Pod Pro might be an option for you. Although I would not use the Pod Pro. I mean, that's not I want the control. Like if I'm going to go down the software product, the magic of being able to do digital is to have control over every single parameter that you can want.
Right.
If you can't do that, it kind of doesn't make sense to me. So,
And you want to be able to look at I mean, if you look at my real pedal board and then you look at this pedal board, I want the same number of pedals.
yeah.
And if I'm throwing an amp and an IR in there, I just use 2
Oh, you
slots.
haven't gotten to the software limitations of Helix yet, have you?
I haven't had to. What
Well,
is it,
wait,
18?
it isn't no. So, you've got the two processors, which are the two lines, right? And
Yep.
then you can have each one has its own amount of DSP. So if you put two King of Tones on one line, you're basically done because that model requires a lot of horsepower. So it's hit or miss. You don't know until you've done it. So you're going to find out real quick that there are limitations in Helix that make it real fun. There is an ultimate routing, and if I can remember how to do it, I'll tell you how to do it. But basically, that's how you get 2 amps with completely independent signal chains, where you can have different signal chains going into the amps, different signal chains coming out of the amps, and you can either split them or run them in mono. Um, and so the way you switch between is just silence one and switch. You know, it's a whole thing. But somebody came up with this routing to get the most out of the horsepower because it doesn't. All right, so the Shark chips that are in it, when they came out, like probably 7 or 8 years ago, they were freaking stellar. But the problem is that Line 6 has used them to the point where they're like full to bursting, basically. And they didn't give us enough signal processing power. So all I can say is you didn't wait for Helix squared. So that's a real problem here.
Yeah, I don't think that Helix Core is gonna come out anytime soon. It could.
I think
It's
it's
just
right
my
around.
luck.
I think it's right around the corner. To be honest with
It's
you,
just my luck.
I wouldn't be
Yeah,
surprised if in the winter of
181 days after I have this thing,
I
that's when it's gonna drop.
I'll bet you winter NAM 2021 or thereabouts because we may not have winter NAM will be Helix squared drop
Word.
date. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised at all because all of
Well,
their
that's in my 6-month terms. So,
competition has now exceeded what they're doing, and they have not launched a flagship product in that line. I don't think they're going to replace the entire line overnight. I think you'll see the Helix squared 2.0, whatever they call it. I think they should call it squared. I think they should pay me a bunch of money to do it. I think the Helix, the next iteration, will come out, and then they will do the line one NAM at a time until they get down to the stomp. And the reason for that is they don't want to update the stomp right away because that's their cash cow. And they know that when that thing comes out in 2023, July 2023, it'll be a big deal. So, because everybody's going
Well,
to be waiting for it.
the stomp the stomp was on my radar. The problem with the stomp that I had is just what you said. It doesn't take pedals well, so now I have to worry about doing what I want to be able to do inside of a stomp.
I
And I
don't
don't mind doing what I want to do inside the stomp. My biggest problem is 3 buttons.
I don't know that I was just gonna say, I don't know that it doesn't take pedals well. I've heard that there's that like the AD converters are different, but I've heard, yeah, like you said, that the 3 pedals is super limiting, and you only get 1 line of DSP in the stomp.
Yeah.
So you're already like you're gonna eclipse that almost immediately. The stomp is a Swiss Army knife that you put on your board to work with the pedals you already have. It's not a device you buy to be the be all end all one stop shop. Um, where and in your case, you would have to tear apart your boards and redesign what you're doing around the stump.
Yeah. Around the stomp.
Which is funny because it's a $600 device you have to redesign your board around.
Yep. Yep.
Whatever. So there's that, and then there's another toy behind you that we can't see because your chair's in the way.
Yeah. So I'll move a little bit. Our listeners have. So there's the spark.
That lit a fire under Jim's rear end.
Yeah, the spark. So I ordered my spark in June, and I fully didn't expect it to show.
Is it worth $100?
Yeah, yeah, it's worth
I'm
$100.
just saying that because of the ad from last week.
Yeah, so it's worth the money. Now here's so it shows up. First of all, I've been checking my thing every day because every week they send out a thing. The sparks are gonna ship. Sparks are gonna ship. You
Sure,
can
sure.
track your spark in on this
Someday.
web page. Mine has not shipped. According to their webpage, mine has not shipped. So I get this UPS thing. This is what's funny. I get this UPS email or a text that says UPS this tracking number is coming to your home and it'll be there on Friday. I'm like, oh, that's weird. I said to my son, I go, did you order something that's supposed to get here Friday? Oh yeah, yeah, I ordered something. Is it coming UPS? Yeah, yeah. I said okay because I thought maybe I ordered something, but okay, it's your thing. Sure enough, his item came on Friday. And then I look and I see positive grid in the outside of a cardboard box. Positive grid, what the heck? So I'm like, oh, it's my spark and my bag because I paid extra for the bag.
Did you?
I opened the cardboard box and there's a spark in there. I'm not mad about that. It's right there. Set it up, looking for the bag, open the box, looking through the box, nothing. No bag. Now I talked to John Bott because he did the same thing. Our show listener, John Bott, and he told me, he goes, my bag came separately, but they came on the same day. He said, but I was, he was one of the first people. So maybe that's the item that is going to ship in August 12th to the 20th. I don't know. But mine still says it's shipping. I may get a second spark with a bag. I have no idea. We'll see.
Seriously? Like positive grids can't seem to get anything right.
Well, they could, I mean, yeah. So I mean, you could put the bag is back. Is the bag back ordered? Is the bag back ordered?
No, they're
Is that
waiting on
what's
him from. Yeah, that's probably exactly what's going on. They're waiting from the slow boat
from
from
China?
China or People's Republic or whatever.
Well, these are built in China, so but it's just ridiculous that I'm still waiting for the simple part,
Did
the free T-shirt, so to speak. I mean, I paid an extra 30 something dollars for the bag. I better get the bag, right? I
all
mean,
right, all right. So you've used it?
okay, so the Spark was a little bit better as far as the okay, turn it on, usable tones. I had a complaint with it.
What is that?
Okay, so when you turn it on and you go to like let's say, and it's just like I should grab the thing so you can see the top of it, but it's just like the the Katana.
Right.
It's got an acoustic setting, clean, kind of dirty,
Yeah.
dirtier. whatever metal. So you've got pretty much the same settings. Here, hold on, just one second.
Let me get a card because I need to write down. I'm gonna get an image of this from you.
So
Dang it!
I'll show it to the camera too. But it's got,
Yeah, so it's
see
just got
there.
modes.
Yep, all those modes. All right. Am I showing the right end of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's got acoustic bass. So you got a bass settings, so you can play bass. Clean, classic, crunch, high gain, metal. So it's got one extra mode that the Katana doesn't have. That's bass. You've got your standard bass, treble, whatever, your delay, reverb, and modulation. Okay. You can go into the software. You can set it up. You can download the app, which is not named what they tell you it's named. Okay, so they tell you right here on their paperwork.
What's it
Let me-
called?
what does it say? Download and
Spark
install
Control app.
the Spark Control app. It is not called the Spark Control app. Let's look at my iPhone. Because when I
print
went
screen
to
what you show me.
yeah, I'll have to do that for you. When I went to get it, it is called Spark. Just Spark. And when I went to find it, it's actually not called the Spark Control app. That is a different company's thing altogether.
So what that tells you is they didn't actually get the app registration when they had the cards printed up, and instead of getting new cards, they sent them out anyway. That's
Sent 'em out anyway.
embarrassing. This is a
So-
software company. Positive Grid is a software company, and they don't know how to sell software. Let's just
So
let
if
that
you-
sink in for a minute.
If you use this QR code, though, at least it got you to the right place. So they didn't have the name they thought. So if you do search for a Spark Control app, let's do that, shall we? Let's go into my iPhone. And we'll go into the App Store, right? And we'll click here and we'll say Spark Control. Here's what's important. There are two Spark controls. Okay, neither of
gosh.
them. I don't know if that's focusing or not. One says Spark Control E, which is not it, and one says Perico Spark Control. Neither one of these is the Spark Control app.
Those are the suggested.
Neither one of them, right? And neither one of them takes you to the Spark Control app. Does that look like the Spark Control app to you?
Nope.
No, it does not. It looks like a remote for a Fire Stick. Okay, that's the other one is no. It's just some random thing too. I'm like, are you kidding me? You guys couldn't get this right. They couldn't name the damn thing right. So I get the app. Now I will say this: it connected beautifully. It worked fine. Figuring out, I had to get my son to show me how to get the. So you bring up the app. Let's bring up the app, shall we? Let's talk a little bit about the app, just a little bit, because it's so fun. Oh, let me show my face, my phone. There we go. So in the app, whoops, wrong app.
That's not surprising.
Yeah. Oh, I have to turn it on. Anyway, in the app, you can pick apps.
Yeah,
right.
you swipe right and left. It's like,
Right.
Tinder
Well, guess
or
what?
something.
Let's say I choose the drive pedal. Okay. How do you turn the drive pedal on and off? How do you do that? What would you think you would do? Here's a drive pedal.
You
Here's a
think you
drawing
would
of it.
touch the button?
You would think you touch the button, right? So that works, right?
Yes.
And then to control it, you would do this. How do I choose a different drive pedal?
Swipe right or left. You swipe up. Nope. I guess you would hit it in the line, right? And you hold on it in the line or something. Oh, there you go. Yeah, you double
Now,
tap.
ready? Now let's choose that one.
Yep.
How do I control it now? Do I double click it?
No, you click the thing up top in the line. I mean, it's not
So
intuitive, but
no, it's not intuitive. It's just it's just a little bit of a pain in the ass. Why can't I double click? Everybody double clicks these days.
do you know why this isn't? You know why this is not intuitive? Because this was an
Why?
afterthought. This was
I
how
think
do we
so.
make the cost of the hardware so cheap? We don't put a user interface on it. We let people use the user interface they have in their pocket. And that's bullshit. Because I'll tell you right now, in 5 years, when your phone does no longer launch as the Spark app, you've got a paperweight.
Yep. And and the thing is, and that's a pain in the rump. The other side of it is you can have as many freaking presets as you want in here. That is beautiful.
Yeah.
I do like that. I can put a ton of presets in here, but I'm only going to be able to load 4 to this. Which I mean, are you really going to use more than 4 presets on this?
No.
It's a freaking practice amp.
When are
It
you ever
doesn't
going to
weigh
be
anything.
whenever you ever going to be away from your amp when you're carrying the thing around? The other thing is, I don't know why you bought the bag for it because it's never going to leave your desk anyway. Where are you taking it? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Unless I'm going to a party or at a friend's house and they want me to bring in a guitar, an acoustic guitar. And I mean, that's really it. That's it. I mean, the truth of the matter is you're right. Here's another thing. This strap, this is mindful of like an 80s strap they would put on one of those. Remember the ones in the 80s when you would get a what do you call it that you put on your shoulder like this, right?
a
You'd
boom
be
box, yeah.
boom box, right? A boom box. And what invariably happened to these?
They broke.
They broke right here because they're shitty plastic straps. This is slightly thicker than those. Slightly. I do. I mean, I do like the fact that it's stereo and it's 40 watts and all the other stuff.
How
Let's just say this:
how loud
would
is it?
I? And it's fucking loud. It is fucking loud. It really is. Does sound bigger than it is. It really does. If you've heard people say it sounds big, it does sound big. It does sound wide. They did a good job of
I
making it.
guarantee you it doesn't sound as big as that DSL 40 behind you or the twin.
No, no, because I can't get that thing up to a certain. Yeah, that thing it's in the twin. Oh, the twin, blow it away. It's loud. Could you gig with it? There's no fucking way. I mean,
Yeah.
if you were a solo act in a frickin' coffee shop, maybe, but no other way. But I will say this about it: if what you're buying it for is practice amp, little practice amp, like a T, and you don't want to pay the full price for THX, this is okay. Um, it, there are some things I haven't tried. That's why I want to put a video. I'll put a video together, and David's going to
I thought
put
we
that in here.
determined that the THR was the same price.
The THR 10 watt is the same price.
Right.
This is 40. The THR 30 watt is
I don't
$500.
I don't think we were talking about wattage though. I think we're talking about a feature comparison. Because that's
Feature
all right.
comparison
So
is the
yeah,
same.
oh, the wattage is X or whatever. But the reality is this: look, when you're talking about home theater type audio systems, wattage
Yeah.
doesn't mean a whole lot. It's about your
I,
resistance, how efficient your speakers are, and all these different things. So
yep.
I think
If you're
the true
going,
competitor is the 10-watt Yamaha THR, but that's
yeah,
my personal assessment.
probably. I haven't tried the 10 watt yet, so I don't know. Um, but I do know it's going to do the job, and that's just a little practice amp plug in play when I don't want to have to do anything.
Yeah, that's mine back there
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
volume on like
The truth,
0.03.
the truth of the matter is, this is what really will boggle your mind. The 2x12 Fender is what my practice amp has been. I plug into channel
Yeah,
2,
but you've got the attenuation on there, so
yeah, and I put it down to 1 watt, and I just play it through there.
yeah. That's what
and
it
it's
should
all
be.
day long. 1 watt through 212 speakers is just as loud as this thing.
We have at least one show listener who still has a katana head, and
Yep.
that's what I was using the head for.
Yeah. Yeah, the katana head would be the same thing. Money wise, I think if you were to say to me, somebody who's owned the katana and this, which would you buy if you're going to gig with it? A katana.
Yeah,
All day long, the
duh.
katana.
Yeah, for sure.
Come on. If you're going to ever take it to a gig, the katana. I don't care if you get the 1x12. Um, I'd buy the katana. The katana 50 is the same price as this, and you've got all the same stuff, but you've got a thing that you can take to a gig. You can play it. It's 12 inches and it's 50 watts and it's a lot more power.
All
A
right.
lot more power.
So we're gonna hear more about the Spark over the next couple weeks. I'm sure. I'm sure we're gonna hear more about the Helix over the next couple weeks. We have just spent an hour doing what's new, Jim. So let's switch gears. We have a topic. We're gonna race through it. I don't think it's. I think it's a topic we've sort of covered on the show before, but I think we're gonna look at it in a different context. Um. So the first topic, and I sprung this one on Jim the other day, and I didn't give him any context to this one, but show listener Dan Kish asked me an interesting question the other day. He said, "Have you ever played a plywood guitar?" And I thought to myself, and I said, "Yeah,
I have.
I mean, I've played some plywood guitars, I'm sure." And I thought of what they were, like the couple that I have, and I reached out to him and I said, "Yeah, I've played some plywood guitars before." And I said, "I didn't. My impression wasn't they weren't like anything spectacular, but I think the body has less impact than the neck, and the hardware has more of an impact than the body wood does. So that's a big component of this, right? My at least my thoughts on it. Obviously, you'll get the people out there that'll tell you, well, the body wood is 50% of the sound or whatever. And it's like, no, I actually don't agree with that. I think your hardware is probably 50% of your sound. I think your pickups are probably 30% of your sound, and then the rest is probably wood selection. Um, so and glue, because that's another component. Which it sounds insane, but there's a guy who makes very expensive high end guitars, and his determination was that the glue you use on the fretboard is significant to the amount of treble response that you get out of a guitar. And he has this like
Believe
crazy
that.
formula that he uses. But anyway, so he asked me this, and then I was like, yeah, and I was kind of like, I wasn't brushing him off, but I was kind of like, well, this is not a conversation I can really have because I don't have I've never played one I really liked, right? You know what I mean? I know that some of the 70s Gibsons were basically plywood because they were using the sandwich bodies with the edges that made it look like they weren't plywood, but you take the pickups out and you can see the ply going down in there. Um, and I know Fender's done it before too in the CBS era. And I know that they've done it with Squire. And we know that Samick did it for a number of companies in the 90s when they were doing Korean production.
I know for
Um,
a fact Squire's still doing it.
yeah, Squire's still doing it on certain stuff. The Bullet line is probably still, I'm sure the
I,
Pat guitars are, but the Bullet
I'm
line is probably still
I'm pretty sure
sandwiches.
the Affinity line is still sandwich.
Yeah. Okay. So, um, my biggest concern with plywood guitars is the weight because you're using glue. And glue is much heavier than wood is. And if you've ever bought wood, you buy a solid piece of wood, it's a lot lighter than a piece of plywood is. A lot lighter, like an intense amount of lighter. And I see that I have a cat that's about to jump on my tower of power. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the cat to jump up to the
It's
top of the tower of power, and then I
yeah,
might have to.
he's
I might have to go
looking
get
to
her.
launch.
No,
She's looking
Michonne.
to launch.
Michonne, stay away from the tower of power. As far as you're concerned, that's the Tower of Barad-dûr. Anyway, um, so there's your Lord of the Rings reference for the evening.
There you go.
So I'm looking at my topic and I'm thinking, where are we? Oh, plywood guitars. So
Yeah,
anyway,
the glue
he
and the
tells me,
weight.
yeah, the glue and the weight thing and whatever, and like that's kind of where my brain's going. And then he sends me pictures of the guitar that I played. That's plywood that I didn't realize was plywood. He has a Harmony Electric, and I don't know what era it is, but we think it was like I think he told me it was a 70s guitar.
Uh huh.
And I mean, this thing has been beat to hell over the years, and he's played the crap out of it. It's not a closet classic. Okay, he at one point shot an arrow through this guitar, um, and he a crossbow bolt into the guitar. And
Yeah.
so we sat and we played it together. Like I played it and then he played it like last summer. And I played it for a while and I was like, this reminds me of my Fender Jimmy Vaughn Strat, which has a certain vibe to it. And I don't play the guitar a whole lot. It has sentimental value to me. It was the guitar that I gigged with the most when I was in high school. And so I kept it around and like I still play it from time to time, but right now it's sitting in the case. It hasn't come out of the case in probably 6 or 8 months. Um, but I can remember like this got kind of that vibe. And I played it some more, and I was like, "There's no real dead spots here," and it plays decently, and it doesn't have too much fret rattle. Like it had some fret rattle, and it probably for me, I probably would have pulled the action back a little bit or
Yeah.
adjusted the truss rod. But for his playing style, it was perfect. And I was kind of sitting there, and I was thinking like, it's not a bad guitar. And now he tells me it's plywood. So he just rocked my world because, to be honest with you, like I think that guitar is better than they gave it credit for just on the Harmony name. And then now he's telling me, and then he gave me the breakdown of like what the pickups were made out of, and because I guess he's put, I don't know what he's doing to it, but he's working on it. And he had pictures of it all taken apart, and the pickups are ceramic bar magnet, and I thought they were pretty good. They were beefy. They weren't like classic single coils, but they weren't super modern either. Um, it's a cool instrument. Like it had an interesting vibe to it. So plywood guitars, I and it's not too heavy either. So that's the other component. I think if it's done right, you can get away with it. I buy a plywood guitar knowingly? Probably not.
No. Nope.
But I think it's just more of like a hey, I'm gonna get what I pay for kind of thing.
That's a 5-piece sandwich right there.
Yeah,
So I'm pointing for the people just listening. I'm pointing to my Gibson Flying V.
yeah,
That is a 5-piece sandwich, and it's actually a lot more than 5 pieces.
yeah.
The
I was gonna
neck
say they used to be
has
like
5.
seven and
Yeah,
nine pieces in some
the
cases. Yeah.
wings. Yeah, there's 15 at least in the body because it's a 5-piece sandwich center, and the wings are 5-piece sandwich, and they're separate. So that's 15 piece
Get out.
15 sandwich pieces, and then, of course, they're glued together with each other here in the center to the center. Then the neck itself, which is a set neck, so there's another glue spot, is another 5-piece neck. That's a 5-piece neck that runs up to a 7-piece headstock.
So
I just
basically,
wanna
what you're
put that
telling me
in
is
perspective.
you're playing glue.
I'm playing a glue guitar right there, so I am not putting down a freaking a guitar like that. Look, some of the greatest guitars that are hated by some and lauded by others, Dan Electros of the '60s. There's so many
What
plywood
one
guitars
one of the
out
Dan
there.
Electros have like a cardboard top or something?
Yeah, Silvertone.
Yeah.
Um, come on. They're out there and they're loved by a lot of people. I'm not going to put down a plywood guitar. Is it my thing? Hey, if you want to call that thing plywood, it's plywood, and it's already a much loved guitar by me and everybody that's played it so far. That's all my friends. My Les Paul, not plywood. My SG, not plywood, but it's barely above plywood thickness, right? I bought
Yeah.
pieces of plywood, and that thing right there, I don't know how many pieces of wood are in that Strat. I mean, so hey, I'm not gonna put it down. I look at it this way. If you love the guitar, this is the thing, because we're about to talk about that on another type of guitar, so I don't want to go too deep into it. I just want to say if you love a guitar, you love the way it feels, and you love the way it plays, that is the one for you. Do it.
The only thing I want to caveat here. So we're talking about plywood guitars. I want to kind of define what a plywood guitar is. So plywood guitar is like a guitar that is assembled from other pieces and glued together. And it's a very basic definition, but I want to talk about the body specifically. Usually the body is sandwiched together, and they often try to hide it because they don't want you to see the edges are made out of ply. Now there are different types of plywood. There's void free, and there's voided plywood. And
Right.
voided means there's holes in it.
Yes.
And we're not talking about rate relief. We're talking about like literal holes where they don't compress the plywood together. They glue it, but it's not like they use a press to smash all the pieces into perfect harmony, right?
Right. And in
Um,
there, we're talking about a completely different composite.
yeah, I hope we don't have
Well,
too
one
many
of them.
people. Yeah, I know.
Yep.
They're being real pains in the butt tonight. I really hope that no one in our listenership buys a voided plywood guitar. And I would think
Yeah.
if you're
That.
going to get one, that's probably going to come from China. Okay. Because that sounds like something that would come out of Bad Cat Instruments. And I can say that
Yeah.
because I own Shengzai. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, uh, this leads me to another show conversation that I had with one of our Patreon supporters, Stephen Conrad. And he
Yeah.
approached me and he says, "What do you think of heritage guitars?" And I thought about it for a minute. Actually had to think this over because Heritage changed hands, right? So I think we talked about that. They now have a parent company. Heritage used to be independent, or like they
Yep.
were allowed to run themselves at least. And then this new company came in and they're looking to modernize and to bring some new life to the company. And one of the first things that happened was a bunch of people quit or were laid off because they refused to work with CNC. Okay. So
Yep.
that's that's basically the beginning of this story, right? Um, so I responded to him and I said, Heritage makes great stuff. And I said, if you can get something of the right era, Heritage makes sense. It makes a lot of sense for a lot of people. Um, and it also has to be a conversation about what are you expecting to do with this guitar. So this led me to the topic, which is um, when somebody comes to you and they ask you a question like that, with Heritage being what it is, my first inclination was to answer the question with, well, I wouldn't buy a new one because I'm not really sure if they're going to be worth anything. And on top of that, I don't know if they're any good anymore. Like they're not a proven track record anymore, right? Because they've got a new owner and it's been about a year or two down the road since they started modernizing. And so
Yep.
I'm sure the instruments are starting to change coming out of the factory, which means that you might be buying junk. I don't know. And I can't put my name behind that. However, I think given their previous reputation, if you can get your hands on one and you can play one and you like it, it's probably pretty good. Um, and it's worth it. So liking something is always important when you have to answer that question, right? That's part of it. But I wanted to talk about what qualities we should be looking, and I said 3 qualities, but I'm sure there's more. These are the qualities that I look at when I buy a guitar, and I think Jim can comment, and we can go from there. So basically, what I said is the 3 things that are the most important parts outside of sound, because if you don't like the way the guitar sounds, why in the
Yeah. Why
hell
are
are
you
you
buying it?
buying it?
Yeah.
Um,
Don't think new pickups are going to be the tell all end all or the panacea to the fact that you don't like the sound of it.
right.
Truthfully.
So fit and finish, used value, because every guitar is great until it's used, and then you sell it. Every guitar is great until you don't have it anymore, and then you're like, "Thank God I got rid of that one." And need. So, um, and I'm not talking about once, and I'm not talking about needs versus wants. I'm just talking about like, what hole is it gonna fill in your arsenal? And if you're a
Right.
practicing musician, meaning you have like a gig or you're doing some sort of studio stuff, you have a need, right? Otherwise, you're not looking, or
Right.
or it's a want. And then if that's the case, then this is probably a whole different other conversation because then you're a collector, right?
Yep.
So fit and finish. Does the guitar, is it set up properly? Does it have good frets? Is it, does it have a warped neck? Is the finish evenly applied?
Yep.
Are there binding errors? Are there paint errors? Are the screws drilled properly? Does the back plate sit flush with the body? All these different little things that can happen when a guitar is produced. Um, Fit and finish is consistency. Like, so if I'm going to buy Heritage, I'm going to buy new Heritage, I want to think about all of the Heritage line being the same, meaning that they're all uniform. Used value. So this is where Heritage gets sticky, right? So if I was to buy a Heritage, um, I have to be sure that if I'm going to sell it, I'm going to recoup what I'm comfortable with out of my investment. And
Truly.
for me that's usually 2/3.
Yep.
And that really largely depends on the price of the guitar. So if I'm gonna buy a $2,400 Les Paul, like I'd like to be able to get 2 grand out of it when I sell it, or so that would be
Yeah.
ideal.
He's
That would be
at least.
ideal, but you're gonna get 1,700. I mean, that's what you're probably gonna get out of it. So you're gonna take a hit, and you got to be comfortable with that hit. And even if I'm buying a guitar and I'm like, this guitar is for life, I have to be really, really cognizant of the fact that things change,
It
and
might not be for life.
it might not be for life. And then
That's
of
right.
course need. So I'm looking at dual humbucker guitars because that's basically what I need for my solo gig right now. I also think they work out really well for the kinds of things I'm doing with the cover band, and hopefully when the Rona ends, we'll be back doing that. And so that's kind of the way I would look at and evaluate an instrument. Jim, do you have other criteria, things you'd like to add? Um,
Yeah. A very good friend of mine, somebody I respect very much, says that if a guitar doesn't sound well, or if a guitar doesn't sound good, acoustically, and I don't care that it's not an acoustic. Obviously, any of these guitars acoustically. If it doesn't sound good acoustically, don't even bother. Don't even
yeah.
bother plugging it in because it's not going to inspire you.
Well, but that's sound. So that sits into
Yeah,
that sound
that's
quality
sound, but it's a
territory.
sound unplugged. So I'm just stating that. Um, and I'm going to say this because I said it earlier. I think it's a guitar when you look at it and it calls you, it beckons you, and then when you put it in your hands and you play it, and you're like, I love this. I love this feel. I love this. I love this look, sound, and feel. Fit and finish are important. Those are probably the most important things. Are the fact that it beckons me to pick it up. That guitar beckons me to pick it up every single day. It says, "Pick me up and play me." And the feel of it, the fact that I'm making whatever sounds good, bad, or indifferent. I never feel like I sound bad when I'm playing it. So and the SG, it does the same thing for me. So those are guitars that just they call me out every time. The Les Paul and the SG. So I say that that's the thing. Does it inspire you? That's the thing that gets me. And again, you have to look at the practical side of it. So the practical side is it in my price range? Can I resell it if I have to? Because we all know you may fall in love out of love with it. Um, and um, probably most importantly, because this is the biggest one that people miss, do I really have a need? I see guitars I want all the time. You know that because you hear it from me all week long.
Yeah, it's boring.
Oh man, this
It's boring. And
yeah. All week long, I'm like, should I get this? Should I get this? No. No, you actually have to spend some of your money on your mortgage.
yeah, it's
Uh,
funny because I do tell Jim, I'm like, no, what the hell are you doing? Like there's probably half the messages in your Facebook account right now are me going, Jim, what the hell are you doing?
what are you thinking? What are you thinking right now? Um, so yeah, does it fit within an arsenal? I have been trying to convince myself for decades, not weeks, not months, not just a few years, decades that I need a Telecaster. And guys, I don't need a Telecaster. I'm just telling you. I and
No,
I
Jim finally came to that conclusion. We were watching a video last week, and I pointed out there was a nice telly in it, and he says, you know, he's like, I'm sure it is a nice Telecaster, but I don't need one. And I said, what? You just bought one like a year ago or 2 years ago, and you loved it. He's
I
like,
do
no, never again.
I just cannot fall in love with a Telecaster. And I shouldn't say I have met one Telecaster I loved. It was a long time ago. I didn't buy it. It was a um it was a mid to early 2000s. um I think they were the deluxe at the time, uh thin line. and I've never found another neck that felt like that thin line. Never, not once have I felt another one. So, and a true telly lover is going to tell me that's not a Telecaster. That's not a Telecaster. That's a thin line, and you ain't looking at a real Telecaster. So I'm sure that someone's going to say that to me.
I don't think thin lines are any better.
No, that was the only one that ever called out to me. The
All right.
one
Can
thin
I
line.
can I say something? Jim, you're a total romantic. And and like this is appalling to me because I hear you talking about like that guitar's got to call out to me. It's like, dude, if I had to wait for a guitar to call out to me, I would never freaking buy one. Like that it just honestly like I'm so picky that it's no. For me it's a tool and it's got a purpose. I like
Yep.
beautiful tools. I'm not afraid to admit that I like good-looking tools. But
Right.
the purpose drives you're the romantic because it's the other way around for you. You have to justify the romanticism. I'm like the complete opposite. Like it has to I don't get romantic about it until it's like nailed a few holes in my wall, like some nails into my wall. Like it's like a hammer, right?
Yeah.
Or drill or it's it is a literal tool. And so this Kiesel, if you go back and you dig back in episodes, since I've got it here, if you go back and you dig in episodes, you'll hear me when I got the Kiesel immediately like complaining because I was having problems with my thumb going numb, and I'm actually still experiencing that off and on. I'm not wearing my brace all the time, which is part of it, but I've been experiencing this thumb numbness thing, and I was like, I'm gonna sell this guitar. I'm gonna get out from under it. I'm gonna get something else, and honestly, like I've bonded with it because I've just spent so much damn time with it. Um, and I can admit that to myself, but like I didn't get romantic about it until I'd been playing it out for like a year. And then it's like, okay, it's really good and it's really the guitar that I wrote that EP on and like I can't really get rid of it now. I mean, I could honestly I could, but I'm just like I'm kind of stuck with it at this point. Um
You won't.
I won't. Actually probably
You won't.
won't in this case because if you've seen any of my videos, it's a really unique instrument, and I haven't really found anything that does what it does. But
What's funny is when we see your videos now, you are playing that guitar.
yeah,
And all right, my romanticism aside, okay, because I do want to talk about that in a second, but my romanticism aside, why do you pick up the Kiesel? Why the Kiesel? Why are you not playing the G500 or the S500?
I do well. So my songs are written around 7-string arrangements, and it's easier for me to just like stick with the arrangement than to like be the creature of anti-habit, which I
Yep.
do that occasionally where I'll play my songs on the S500 or I'll play them on the Godin. But I think they have more impact with a 7-string, and so that's part of the reason why I haven't like fully converted over to playing my conventional guitars, doing this stuff live, um, and doing it around the house and whatever. But that's really the only reason. They, it's not because like it looks better. I don't honestly half the time, Jim. This is gonna make you laugh so hard when I pick up my S500 and my Godin. It's not because the Kiesel isn't available or anything. It's because the Kiesel is in its case, and I'm like, I really don't want to unzip the case. Here, I'll just grab this one off the wall.
Yep. I, that happens to me.
Well, because
What's
it's a headless. I can't hang it on the wall. So,
I
or
I guess it's a
the other one is this is another stupid one. Oh, that guitar has a strap on it. I'll have to find a strap to put on the keys.
I can't tell you how many times the V doesn't have a strap on it right now because I'm going to put strap locks on it. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
So I got
You're gonna drill strap locks into that?
to put pilot holes in it.
Why don't you just use washers?
It's so hard to put a washer back on every time I take them off to put it in the case because it's got a hard shell case, and because it goes into a hard shell case, I have to take the strap off and put the
Yeah.
strap on. And as you can see right there, I've got the washers. I've got extras.
Honestly, that's one of the few modifications you can do to a vintage instrument that I don't think most people will complain about. Unless it's like
Is put a
museum
strap.
quality, perfect, like
Right.
57
Right.
Strat kind of thing. Nobody's going to complain.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, and it's not going to affect the tone. I'm more worried about it affecting the wood when that pilot hole's got to be right. Anyway,
I wouldn't. To be honest with you, I'd have my luthier do it on that one
yeah, yeah,
because
I'm
because
thinking about yeah,
it'll cost you eight or not. It'll cost you between $8 and $15. Just have
yeah,
them do it because at
because
the
he's
end of
going to
the
set it up anyway.
day, then you'll know it was at least done right. That's a vintage piece you got there. It's a 19. What is it?
Yeah,
82 or something?
yeah, it's an 81,
81.
and John would treat it with respect. Um, so going back to the thing, I will admit to wholeheartedly that with me there is a romanticism about picking up that guitar, the whole thing for it's not even something that makes sense when I say it out loud, but I'm going to say it out loud. When I put that guitar over my head, I smell it as it goes past my face. I feel it as it goes into my um, chest, and I when I strum it, I can feel it vibrating. I can everything that happens with that guitar is it that is what calls to me to say we're playing this guitar right now. And I will work hard to make a song sound better with that guitar around my neck than that one. Harder with Les Paul than I will with the Strat because I feel like I want it to really sound good with Les Paul. Even though I know the Strat is a lot more the brain side of me goes, "No, you got 5 switch positions, you can get it sounding acoustic, blah, 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 you got all these things that you could do with the
There's
Strat."
only two positions on a Strat. There's only
Yeah,
two.
I know. The neck and the bridge. But
I'm kidding. I know people use the in betweens. I know people use the middle pickup, but not me.
I tend to use neck middle and bridge neck more than I use anything. But anyway, but I do use the neck a
You
lot.
heathen.
I know, but do use the neck and I do use a bridge. But outside of those two, that's really where I am. I push the thing in for neck bridge, and I the little V1 switch or S1 switch, and I throw it to the when I want a really really clean sound, I throw it neck middle. But I'll work my butt off to make that Les Paul make the sound better first every time, every time. Um, so it's funny to hear that when you're thinking about it because it does sound ridiculous when you say, "Yeah, when I'm throwing around my neck and I smell it." What kind of ridiculous statement is that? That's what my brain says, but my heart goes, "Oh, that thing is like it's like." I can imagine it's like what a
Jim
drug
celebrates his
user.
anniversaries with his guitars. Like he buys him
Yeah,
a bottle of wine. They
yeah,
play soft music together. And I mean, I honestly like I'm all for it. I name my guitars. They're all named after, Attila the Hun and stuff. Um, and
these are
honestly,
all named after Game of Thrones characters, by the way. So
I
I'm just like,
stopped. I think I stopped naming them a few years ago because I had so many go through my hands in like a
except
very
for
short time period that I was just like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And now it's like, but the point is like, you do develop a relationship with him, but for me, it's like the person that names their gun, like, come on, Daisy, we got to do this, like, the soldier that names
yep,
their gun in a war, like, it's
yep,
not necessarily like I feel any more attachment to them, yes or no. It's just like I got to have something to call it when I'm angry.
yeah, yeah. And I'm the opposite. I call it because I feel the love for it.
Right,
I
right.
mean, and I feel that bond with it. This one is Batgirl,
That's not
you
surprising.
know? That not
Bar-
surprising, right?
Tell Barbara that
Yep,
I
yep.
miss my SG.
That's it. She she's Batgirl. And this one is Daenerys.
Really,
But you know what this one is?
Tyrion.
Tyrion.
Actually, the flying V2 should be Tyrion.
It should be. but it's not. This is Cersei.
Oh, it's not.
That's Cersei
That's not
Lannister.
that. That's not the Hound.
No, it could have been the Mount. I thought about naming it the Mountain, but
No, you need a BC Rich for that.
yeah. The truth is, I'll probably one day I'll wind up with a Telecaster I like, and then I'll wind up naming that, the Hound,
Yeah.
because you got to have the Hound of the Mountain. They
Right.
they
You
they
can't
got to
have one
fight each
without the
other.
other.
Nope. So I'll have to get one and name it. I haven't got a name for the acoustic yet, though. Maybe
What?
I'll name it after that one person that was in Game of Thrones that was a musician, Ed Sheeran. Did you see that episode?
Uh,
Yeah, that happened, folks. If you watch Game of Thrones, that did happen. Ed Sheeran showed up, and they sang a song.
Big
So there's a little
surprise.
fan service for you. Yeah. Huh. But anyway, I, I have a romanticism about it. It's the same with the acoustic. When I pull the acoustic out, it just really, really resonates with me. And I picked that acoustic. I had a choice. I mean, you think about it. I was a Guitar Center with a couple of grand. I had a choice of a lot of guitars at that price point.
Yeah. Well,
When you can, yeah,
here's
go ahead.
here's the interesting thing I think is interesting about this conversation because we're all completely off topic and that's fine.
Yeah, we're way on.
We're gonna stay off topic at this point because this is too good. Um, you're talking about like guitars inspiring you, and I'm kind of like at the frame of mind, and I think maybe that's why I have a different opinion here, and why my whole like frame shift is different. The way I'm perceiving the situation is totally different. It's because when I play a guitar, it doesn't matter what guitar it is, it's my job to be inspired. And that means I have to pull from the depths of my and I this is going to sound romantic, but the depths of my soul and somehow make whatever piece of wood with steel or nylon attached to it.
Yep.
Basically, and this is going to be a terrible way to put it, but I'm going to say it anyway because I think it's kind of sexist, but I want that guitar to be my bitch. Like that's and that's the way I perceive it. It's like me and
Hey,
you.
that can refer to a male or female,
Right,
by the way.
well, I'm
So,
just saying. I'm just saying. Like me and you are gonna go into a room, and I'm going to tell you what you're gonna do, and you're gonna do it. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't cut the mustard. Like I look at it
yep.
as like I'm leading it. I get maybe that's a better way to put it. Like I lead the guitar. I'm Bobby Knight, right? I'm throwing chairs across the floor and choking players, trying to get them to play better basketball. Like that's what I'm doing. Um,
I was watching the NBA today.
yeah. So that's kind of my perception of this. Is that
Yeah.
your impression is like, no, the guitar and I enter into a partnership. For me, it's like, no, it's a parasitic relationship. I'm gonna get what I want out of you, and you're gonna give it to me, or you're gonna get sold.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're the lamprey eel, and it is the great white.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly.
where I'll sit down with a guitar and I'll say, okay, what are we doing today? What are we gonna do today?
No,
And it,
I'm
and it
telling it what we're gonna do today.
yeah, and I have no idea. I literally have no idea until it comes into my heart. It's like I'm sitting there, I'm like, what song am I gonna play? A lot of people like they'll say to me, I'll give you an example, open mic, right? So I'll say, okay, I'm gonna go to open mic, and I go, you know, up there, and I every week I at the end of the show, I'm like, I've got this list of songs next week I am doing. And when I get up there, my guitar goes, no, you're not. We are doing these songs. And that's what you're going to do because that is what I've inspired you to do. That's what I've asked you to do. So we're going to go. We the guitar has told me we are going to do that. And that's my freaky hippie side of me, that 60s flower child thing. That's me in a nutshell. It really is.
I do have.
Oh, lost your voice.
I'm far away from the mic.
Oh, there you go.
I do have. Trying to think about the best way to word this. I do have sometimes where I kind of question like, are me and the guitar going to be able to do this together? And where I make decisions about what I'm going to do. But it's definitely me in control. The other component, I'd say with that is, I definitely think that as we become more familiar with one another, the lines blur between whether it's me or the guitar. Like that's the kind of esoteric way to look at it. Because the guitar stops being a road bump. And that's basically what it is. Like I want my guitars to not be road bumps. I want them to enable me to use the best of my physicality and the best of my mental ability to be able to do what it is that I want to do. And so that is again, that's that tool mentality, right? Like the idea that um, you want an ergonomic tool so you don't tear up your hands, and it's all about facilitating me to be the best that I can be. And so that doesn't necessarily mean, technically, right? Like obviously I'm into technique, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a technical conversation. It's often one that is best tool for the job. So like if I'm trying to play some dirty rock and roll, like maybe I'll use P90s, which we got a set of those to give away. And I gotta get that. I actually am sitting right here. It's the volume knob that I have to install so that I can then put the pickups in and do my A/B test. We had company this weekend, so I wasn't able to do it. But otherwise, it's probably gonna get done this week. I'm hoping. Hopefully, the office doesn't burn down and I can actually get some stuff done. Um, so, yeah, I mean that's basically what it is, though. Like I think about things in terms of decision making instead of like just kind of letting things flow the way that they should go. And I know that's like the popular creative thing is to like a stream of consciousness and all those kinds of things. Like that's not the way I operate. It's just not the way. Like I think artists can be both. I think they can find the right time to when to open up the stream of consciousness and be I want to say at one with the universe, but like uh to be open-minded about what they're doing. But I think vision is very important. And I think vision for me is like, okay, here's the set list. And how are we going to make it as good as we possibly can? And hacking that out and sussing that out and practicing it mercilessly for hours on end, trying to come up with the best possible way to have the best possible moments in what I'm doing.
That
Um,
is probably why I fail sometimes, because I sit down with the instrument and we play, and yet I was supposed to learn 5 songs for the band this week,
we
right? And
all
so
fail. That's I
I
don't want to say Jim saying something bad or admitting something wrong here. We all fail. I have
and I failed.
failed and crashed and burned many a time. And I will continue to crash and burn. It's when you realize that crashing and burning is how you get better that you know how to proceed.
Um, Now what's funny is every single I don't own a lot of tools. I know that sounds ridiculous. A person that owns a home and has a car and is 50 something years old and is, don't you have tools? No, I only in the last few months, we're talking since May, have I bought a a toolkit. Like with a powered screwdriver
Yeah,
and
right around the time you get the pressure washer, right?
right. And so I never owned a pressure washer in my life. I own a pressure washer. I've never the only real tools I've ever owned is like this is a lawnmower because you need to mow your lawn. And this is a and my choice of lawnmower is like, okay, does that lawnmower look cool? I mean, is it like
Yeah, it's an
and
aesthetic choice.
yeah, I put just as much on aesthetics as I do with the thing. And yet you would think that that would be the way with my car. Anyone who's been in my car knows that is not the case. I treat my car like crap. I don't wash it. I don't wash the inside of it. I I finish a bottle of water, I throw the bottle behind me until there's too many bottles and I have to throw them away. Um, it looks like, it's terrible. Um, the uh
You should
the
be
fact
ashamed of
is though,
yourself.
I am ashamed of myself. But now people don't bum rides from me though. So
That's a good reason to do that.
it works. They're like, "Ooh, I gotta get there. I'll ride with somebody else."
You better have that thing
So
clean when I come.
yeah, it will be. I'll have it detailed. And since I bought the pressure washer, it's the first time I've literally washed the car on the outside. That's the first time. Um, so, but to my point, what did I choose for tools? I went to Lowe's and I said, "Wow, that DeWalt set looks really cool." And it's like $400. It was on sale from like $900, and it's yellow
And
and
for as
black.
little as he uses tools, he should have bought Ryobi.
Probably. I bought the 20-volt max
Yeah.
thing that had all the stuff in it, right? I already had a screwdriver. Now I had a power screwdriver. With the what do they call
Well,
that?
you got
The
tools to work on
the back.
guitars. I mean,
Yeah, but I've got another one. It's the 20-volt now, so I have two, and I got this. Now I have a circular saw, and I have a Zaw saw, or what they call a reciprocal saw, and I have a couple other tools. So a sander and some other things that all came in there. Um, and I made a conscious decision then, because when I went to buy a thing to put air in my tires, to have on the road if you're going on the road, I had to buy a DeWalt because I had to match. I had to have one that matched, and it needed to use the same battery. So that, it was just something that I did, and so I spent double the money on one that matched when I could have spent half the money and got one in its own stuff, but it would have been blue, and I didn't want blue. I had to have yellow and black, and it had to be DeWalt. But that's me. And so look at my Marshall, it's white. How many
I
people
know.
have a white
I
Marshall,
know.
right?
We talked about this because I was like, you totally bought that Marshall because it has white Toolx. Has nothing to do with the way it sounded and
No,
everything
I
to do
do
with
love
the
the way
white.
the Marshall, because I've owned several DSL-40s.
Yeah.
I love the DSL-40, but I love the white Tolex. Look at this. I wanted to give this Helix a try because it's gold, and we had one, so I wanted to give it a try.
We had a conversation about the Kemper.
It
And
matches the
and it came up
Stratocaster.
and it
Look,
came up. Jim says, to give you
yeah,
perspective, Jim says, well, I have to have the white one.
yeah, yeah. I wanted the white one, but they don't make a white stage, so I have to have the green.
Yeah. Well,
That ugly
lump it.
ass green.
Lump it. It's fine. No,
Yeah,
that green looks great. Shut up. Had enough of
it
your.
doesn't go with anything I have. It
You know what's ugly? You know what's ugly is this color combination on this Analog Man beer koozie.
Yep. Did they give you that for free?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and not because
At
I'm a
least
member of the show, but because I waited forever to get a King of Tone.
at least he included it.
Yeah,
And that's the other thing. I wish they would make these in wood colors.
I need
Come
to get a
on.
hat. I should get an Analog Man King of Tone hat, an Analog Man hat. I should because I got multiple Analog Man pedals on my board. Um,
You should.
and honestly, like if my wife wants to get me something for Christmas, I'll just tell her just go to Analog Man and buy me something.
Yeah,
Like in
yeah.
all
Get a
honesty,
hat.
like everything I've got from him so far has been great, like other level great. Um, can you remember when I this is going back in time, but when I got my Sun Face and I think I FaceTime called you or
You
something, and I
still
was
had
like,
your Helix when you got your
yeah, and
Sunface.
I was like, listen to this thing, and it was like a drive pedal, and I was just sitting there like, this is the best fuzz face I've ever heard, and of course I owned several at the time. They've all gone now. Um, yeah, which reminds me, this is another video I need to do. This Jason Fuzzmonger's pedal, and I got to get back to him. I've had this thing for over a year now. Um, I'm just so behind on crap, man.
We are terrible at this stuff, but we've got to put our foot down.
Yeah, we're trying to get things
Our
more
feet down.
consistent. If you didn't see last week's episode is the first episode where we started flying in extra material into the video
Yep.
episode. So it's video enhanced. If you're a podcast listener, you'll get to hear it. You might miss some of the visual content. You can always go to the YouTube channel and you can actually watch the video and skip to the timestamp because I'm going to start timestamping as much as I can. If you want to add something as a timestamp, if you're watching this show, you can put it in the comments below, and I will try to make sure that it gets added to the list of timestamps in the commentary. I have no problem running YouTube that way. It's the video editing that's a real challenge, and I think we're probably going to be a little bit more sporadic with episodes in the future, just because, like last week's episode took me 4.5 hours to edit. And then I was having problems doing the encoding so they could upload it to YouTube. I know at some point we're going to get a lot more consistent because I'm getting up to speed. I'm
Yeah.
getting faster at this. I've been doing it professionally now too, so that's a whole other ball of wax. I do it at work as well, so I am fast at video editing. I'm getting faster. I know that at some point in the future I'll have the edit time down to an hour or two, but right now it is abysmal. So the episodes are going to be sporadic. I'm just warning everybody. It's
Yeah.
just the way it's going to be for a while. But if you haven't noticed, all I do for the audio podcast version of this is export the audio from the video file. So we're going to try our best to make sure that when we continue through this process of transitioning to video, not as the primary format, but as a component of the podcast, I'm going to try to do our best to make sure that we're calling out things that are visual on the show when Jim shows something and try to describe it. And maybe we'll even start doing screenshots in the show notes of the actual video content so that people can see it. And I think actually another thing I'm going to do is in the podcast notes, I'm going to start putting the YouTube video link because I do end up uploading the YouTube video first and I keep it private. So I get the URL that's going to be the link, and then I can copy that into the episode debut and publish them both at the same time. And that will allow people to be able to jump back and forth pretty seamlessly. So
I'm hoping that people are enjoying as we go along, enjoying the video content we're adding in. I think it's important, and hopefully you guys are.
I did an
getting
experiment this
some of that.
weekend, and my experiment was I uploaded the YouTube video, and I left it
Yep.
up for a day before I put the MP3 up, and I had people actually reach out to me and message me, so I know people are watching it on YouTube, which is good. We do have analytics. I can see people watching. I just don't know how many of our regular show listeners are watching it in that format, and that's kind of what I
Right.
was looking for, because I knew I posted in the group, hey, the video's up. And I know we've got subscribers too. We're hovering around 100 subscribers. Please subscribe. If you watch the show, subscribe, like, and subscribe. It's not that hard, folks.
And share it.
Yeah,
Even if you
share
just
it around.
one person, if you guys are sharing this and we got one person that you share it with, that starts to grow, and then the growth is
Well, the other thing we're going to do is we're going to start taking hot takes, quick segments. I think we're going to do one from this episode. I think when you did the when I psychoanalyze you for a moment, I think we're going to chop that out and make that a short clip episode. Like people can
yeah.
Well, it'll be a part of the main
I like that.
episode, but that
Yeah.
way you can like short bursts. So you can just watch me berate Jim about being romantic or that kind of thing. So we can kind of chop
I
things
like it.
up and make it a little bit more digestible. Because I know watching a 2-hour YouTube video sucks. I can tell you it
Yeah.
does. But I would assume that you're probably watching and it's on the background somewhere and you got headphones on or whatever, you're at work and you're listening, and then something comes
Yep.
up and you're like, oh, I want to see that. And then you click over and you. So anyway, we went way over tonight. I have been David.
I've been Jim.
And tonight we have been Practical Guitarists.